I see a lot of nervous energy, which is great, but you shouldn't be nervous. There's short presentations and you're gonna kind of move along. And of course, everyone's really supportive here and we're very excited about this program. So I'm Rob Fairley. I'm the acting director of the Institute for Social Transformation. The long-term director is on leave right now. And it's been really exciting. And this is kind of like the thing I was looking forward to the most when I agreed to be the acting director, because I came to the event last year and I sponsored a student last year. And it was incredibly, like this rewarding experience to see a student that really had a mindset of he wasn't sure what he wanted to do. And now it's exciting to find out that he's gonna go to grad school next year. He basically got into everywhere he applied for. He got funding. And I mean, it's just sort of incredible. And I think what he told me is that this program really motivated him to rethink what he wanted to do. And he just loved the research component of it. Okay, so now to some more of the details here. We have 38 of our students are going to present today out of roughly 50 students overall in the program. And they've been involved this whole academic year, so some in the summer, fall, winter, and spring quarters. And we're going to have all of the students present. Before I can do anything, what I'm going to do is give a land acknowledgement first, and then we'll move and we'll have the acting dean of social sciences, Heather Bullock, will come up and give some comments about the program and give a little bit more about the history of it. Okay, so starting out with our land acknowledgement. The land on which we gather is the unceded territory of the Awaswas-speaking Yupi tribe. The Ama Mutsun tribal band, comprised of the descendants of indigenous people taken to Mission Santa Cruz and San Juan Bautista during Spanish colonization of the Central Coast, is today working hard to restore traditional stewardship practices on these lands and heal from historical trauma. Okay, so it is my great pleasure to introduce the acting dean of social sciences, Heather Bullock. Come on up.
It is truly wonderful to be here with you today on what I think is a really joyous day. So thank you for being here. I am delighted to see you. Absolutely thrilled to share this afternoon with you. In the Division of Social Sciences, we know that connecting faculty and their research, students with faculty and their research, is one of the most powerful experiences that students can have during their undergraduate careers. And all of you here today are engaged in that enterprise. Not only does it give students the opportunity to develop research skills at the cutting edge of new knowledge, but it also allows students to build closer relationships with their professors and to envision futures in graduate school or other research-related career paths. And that can be really hard to do without these experiences. All too often, however, students who are first generation, low income, or from historically marginalized backgrounds are excluded from these kinds of opportunities, even though we know it's a crucial component to making the most of their time at college. The Building Belonging program is designed to dismantle some of these barriers and to give more students the opportunity to work directly on world-class research projects in the social sciences, expanding their engagement with faculty, their mentors, and fostering a deeper sense of belonging and connection to UCSC. Our Building Belonging students are awarded $1,500 scholarships per quarter, making these opportunities paid rather than volunteer. And this opens these opportunities up to far more students. We thank the generous donors who fund this program, which is administered by the Institute for Social Transformation in the Social Sciences. And now I'm going to give you some numbers that I think will really blow you away. Since the program launched in 2020, we've awarded over 340 student scholarships, totaling more than $500,000, going directly to students. And this has also supported over 130 faculty research projects. So a giant win. When I saw it, I was just like, wow. Today we will hear from 38 students who have taken on research projects that range from climate change and its implications on our economy, to immigrant justice and belonging, to social impacts of COVID, to educational equity, to kelp restoration, and to chimpanzees. And I'm telling you, that is just scratching the surface of the ground we will cover during this amazing time together. If you'd like to learn more about all of the students and the research projects, I hope you'll visit the Institute's website listed here for you. Please join me in celebrating this incredible work and really celebrating our students today. I know we're all going to learn so much, and I'm really excited. I will turn this back over to Rob, who will introduce the students and get the show on the road.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, so a few housekeeping things that I want to get through. Basically, we're clustering some of the talks by subject matter, but you'll see it's not perfect. And that's part of because of what Heather said. I mean, projects on chimpanzees are kind of hard to fit in with a lot of other things in social sciences, so you can imagine that's not easy to do. But it is interesting, you know, the wide range of research that's done in social sciences here, and so that's going to be on full display today. But we are going to try to group projects. Another is that we don't have actual official breaks. We're going to try to get through all 38 students relatively quickly. So if you need to get up and get a drink or go to the bathroom, they're right through these two doors. There's actually a refill bottle and drinking fountains there and restrooms. So go ahead and do that when you need to. We also won't have time for question and answers. What we will do though is at the end, we're gonna have a reception outside and we'll have delicious food out there. And of course, that's a great time for all of you to talk to the students and ask more questions. Certainly grill them about their research, which I love to do. The other thing is today's event's going to be recorded, so it will be posted on video. So if, of course, you want to show your parents and your family members, they can watch your presentations, which is also very exciting. So for students, to get to the real, you know, the basics of what you need to know, I'm going to introduce your names. So you're going to come up, you're going to do your presentation, and then what I'm going to do is tell the next group of students who's on deck to come over and sit over here. And just be ready. So that way we can kind of move through this quickly because we have to get through all 38 presentations, each one with 2 minutes. Okay, so let's get started then. So the first project is going to be by Kayla Mendoza and Isabel Vo, whose faculty member is Margarita Azmiria. So would you guys please get them up and present? And so on deck to be ready for the next presentation will be Paradise Oakley. Yes, so come on up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we will be presenting our project titled Intersectionality, Close Relationships, and Sense of Belonging in First-Generation College Students. My name is Kayla Mendoza, and I am double majoring in Sociology and Legal Studies.
And my name is Isabel Vo, and I'm fourth year psych major.
And our faculty member is Margarita Azmitia.
So we're just going to quickly go over our goals, what we did, and our takeaways. So our goal with this project was, through studying Professor Azmitia's past work, we wanted to create a deeper dive into the close relationships that current first-generation college students have, as well as if they do or don't have a sense of belonging while they're attending university right now. And this is important because without understanding the student demographic, we might continue to foster an unwelcoming environment, as well as not provide the proper support that they need while they're attending university, especially as there is an increasing amount of first-generation college students right now.
And then for what we did, as part of our roles as research assistants, we've been involved in various tasks related to research and data collection. We have reviewed and analyzed previous interviews conducted with UC Santa Cruz students using coding techniques to find valuable insights centered around their intersectional identities. Additionally, the team provided assistance in writing a conference submission for the Society of Qualitative Inquiry in Psychology, which was successfully accepted for presentation. Another significant contribution that we made was collaborating on the development and implementation of a survey and interview process tailored to gather information from current students. We are also currently awaiting approval from the Institutional Review Board to proceed with collecting more data to further our findings.
And as for our takeaways, I discovered that I really enjoy doing research, as well as working with all of our lab mates. I think that I have learned a lot of new perspectives that I wouldn't have had the chance to because I wouldn't have met them in the first place. So I'm really grateful for that, as well as being able to participate in this program.
And then for my takeaway, I am also a first-generation college student, so I found this experience to be very transformative, not only for myself, but for future first-generation student experiences. I also enjoyed working with my research team a lot because everyone contributed unique and student experiences, and they contributed to great findings and new perspectives, which helped the project overall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have Paradise Oakley, who will be presenting. Her faculty mentor is Damian Parr, and on deck is Laura Galanos.
Is there a clicker? Oh no, you can go back to the next one. Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Paradise Oakley. I'm a fourth year here. I'm studying Community Studies, Crez, and Politics, and I had the pleasure of working with the Ed Equity team in the Agroecology department. Yeah, so this is a little bit about us. We were primarily trying to figure out ways to make the agroecology and the farm more welcoming to students who are the majority on this campus, and like think about ways to make the classes, like the intro class and upper division environmental studies classes, more welcoming. And so in the team, it was Mary, myself, Shield, Thaddeus, Savannah, and Mauricio. And yeah, so we were able to, let's see, can you go to the next slide? Okay, so we were able to conduct 28 interviews over the course of 2 years, and the majority of the students were saying that they had prior experience in like working in the fields, working back home at community gardens, caring about the environment, and then they were also sharing how after the pandemic they wanted to take a class that was not remote, and being on the farm had gave them a sense of community and a sense of belonging on campus, so that was really nice. Some things that didn't work for the students was like the amount of manual labor without understanding like the theory to practice model, as well as a lack of structure on the field days, because there were the farm where you would like harvest or grow seedlings, and then the Chatwood Garden, which is right down there. And then we also had the Cal Coffee Shop, where students would either work downstairs, like serving students, or upstairs and like making food. So there was just like a lack of structure. And what do we see that can be improved on the educational experience? Was just ways to incorporate food systems into everyday lives, as well as incorporating some field trips with diverse experiences. So visiting agroecology farms, like studying agrotourism, thinking about the dairy industry and polyculture, as well as learning more from faculty on campus. And yeah, so like based on these findings, we hope to meet with the director of the CASFIS and create some new policies and practices for the leadership, as well as like agroecology major faculty and staff to adapt and make the programming more effective for students of color on this campus, as well as making sure that we're advocating for them and making direct change. Yeah, but that's a little bit about us. This is a picture from like the coffee ceremony that was in March, and then a field day. But yeah.
So Paradise is actually going to stay up and talk about a second project that she did. So she had a busy year.
I did. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I also had the pleasure of like working on eco grief, eco trauma, and how that impacts students on campus. And so it was really fun. I think someone else mentioned, so I was able to like go through the IRB process, host a listening session. That's like from one of ours, and really understand that students of color and like students on this campus have really know the terminology of like what eco trauma, what eco grief is, and what climate anxiety is, but they were experiencing it, especially on campus, like this past January and even now. It was like flooding, fires, snow, so it was a lot, and students were feeling it. And so just like understanding that we need space to like talk about these issues and like think about changes, and understanding that in like literature reviews, I was able to understand the like proximity, like the different proximities that students have at different campuses, but like how it impacts us, and especially like changes by like race, sexuality, and gender. And so I thought that was like really important. So I'm really happy that I was able to do that research. And then I'll just leave out with a quote. Our radical imagination is a tool for decolonization and for reclaiming our rights to shape our lived reality. So I think, yeah, just like investing in the students, investing in like climate health professionals on campus to like have these topics. So I'm really happy that I was able to hold space for students on campus to like learn about these and ways that we can make climate change more equitable for us all. But yeah, thank you all for being here, and I'll pass it off to you, Rick.
So the next student is going to be Laura Galanos, whose faculty mentor is also Flora Lou. So that actually didn't get mentioned. Sorry about that. The previous project was also Flora Lou. And on deck is Lilia Kuzma.
Okay. Hello, my name is Laura Galanos, and I'm a fourth-year undergraduate student majoring in critical race and ethnic studies. This year I worked on a research project with Professor Flora Liu with the aim to visibilize Asian American environmental concerns, given the prevalent view in our society that privileges whiteness in mainstream environmentalism. I examined the diversity within AAPI communities, as another aim of the project is to show that these communities cannot be categorized as monolithic. I began the research by analyzing existing scholarship and institutional data, which informed my literature review and research proposal that I worked on during fall and winter. In spring 2023, I designed, implemented, and facilitated 3 focus groups consisting of Chinese, Indian, and Filipino undergraduate students. In the focus groups, we discussed topics such as environmental degradation in the students' home communities, the dynamics of environmental spaces on campus, and measures UCSC can take to forge a more inclusive environmental movement. In the preliminary findings, I found that students greatly appreciated ethnic affinity spaces as they felt seen and heard. When discussing environmentalism at UCSC, Asian American Pacific Islander students feel discouraged from speaking up as their environmental concerns and lived experiences are not valued as much as their white counterparts. The graph over here suggests that AAPI are the fastest growing group on campus. Therefore, it is important to think about their culture through an intersectional lens. There's lack of research on AAPI environmentalism in general and on campus. Given the history of the environmental movement and inclusivity at UCSC, it is crucial that we implement environmental initiatives that highlight AAPI cultures, concerns, and communities. Across all 3 focus groups, students emphasized that having environmental spaces centering them would foster environmental inclusion on campus. Let's uplift the voices of AAPI students to work towards a more equitable environmental movement at UCSC. Thank you.
Our next student is Lilith Guzman. Her faculty mentor is Ravi Rajan. And on deck is Maya Mendoza.
Hi, my name is Lilith Guzman, and my project is on hurricane devastation in Nicaragua. So to begin, where is Nicaragua? It's nestled right between Honduras and Costa Rica, and it's the largest country in Central America and also the second most impoverished country, but right behind Haiti on the Western Hemisphere. To the far right, you can see a map of Nicaragua, and I'm going to go over some of the topographical features of the country. It's home to most of the Central American volcano arc and has incredible geographic variation. From the Pacific lowlands to the mountains to the Mosquito Coast, it's incredibly biodiverse and is a great case study to kind of understand the impact that hurricane devastation has on not only just Nicaragua, but all of Central America and South America. As mentioned earlier, the country ranks 4th and most vulnerable to climate change risk, as mentioned by the IPCC in the second chart. Nicaraguans are facing the brunt of the climate crisis and the consequences of hurricane severity, with hurricane severity increasing greatly yearly. And it's why this project is important is because most people don't know where Nicaragua is if you were to ask them to say it on a map or find it on a map. So I hope that all of you learned something new today. And Nicaragua is imperative to study as a country because it has a deep history of vulnerability, and once again is really facing the brunt of the climate crisis. This research and this paper focuses more so on how we can begin to reframe devastation within countries such as Nicaragua into patterns of vulnerability rather than blaming its citizens and its governments for its lack of ability to face consequences of the climate crisis and its mitigation and adaptation. Thank you.
Okay, so next up is Maya Mendoza, and her faculty mentor is also Ravi Rishan.
Hello. Am I heard like this? Okay. So yeah, I'm doing a research project on the geotrade relations and impacts of those geotrade relations between countries in the global south and the dominant kind of European countries in America and Canada. And then specifically a case study of Jalisco, Mexico, specifically where my family comes from in a small rancho outside of Tamazula de Gordiano. I think this project is very significant because I'm trying to highlight the intersectionality between one, of course, environmental justice and social justice, but also shed light on how unsustainable economic systems like capitalism are for the land, people, and ultimately like governments. I have images right now of the sugarcane in Tamazula. What happens very classically is foreign companies come in and buy land that was previously owned by the community members and change their ability to have their traditional agricultural practices into the monocultures we're kind of used to in the Midwest, and then also how we get all of our cash crops / how produce is kept like mangoes and bell peppers all year round when they are definitely seasonal items. And then also just an image of the general degradation that happens to the land. I hope to be able to conduct this research in a less exploitative way, just because that is where my family's from, and my family has very much faced the impacts of that, but also able to research it through this kind of like academic lens is very important. Yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Okay, so that was actually the end of our group 1 of students, and now we have group 2. So the first one will be Selma Ruiz and Carla Vaca. And the faculty mentor is Karen Hole. And on deck will be Azareli Bedoya.
Good afternoon. My name is Carla.
Oh, and I'm Selma.
And our research was on assessing habitat use by mammals and birds in restored tropical forests. This research is established in the country of Costa Rica, and our role was to work remotely all the way from Santa Cruz and essentially look at camera trap images in multiple research plots. Selma and I identified various mammals and avian species, while I also took on the role of observing the presence of seed predation and interactions with seeds. For example, common species we recognized include the common opossum, orange-billed sparrows, and agoutis, which can be seen in the image presented. In my research, I have personally seen agoutis interacting with seeds or consuming them commonly. Observations such as this can help us better understand how seed predation ultimately affects forest restoration.
So we worked together on this research project and processed these camera trap images using special software that neither of us had experience with before, but I can say we're pretty comfortable with now. We were also able to join Karen Hull's research lab meetings alongside others who are working on their own research and theses for higher education. I had never attended an active lab before, so it was incredible for me to be surrounded by the lab and the research that was happening all around me. Being part of these weekly discussions and having the opportunity to ask questions about other research that was happening in the lab meant Carla and I really got a behind-the-scenes look at the process of writing a lab report or a paper and what it takes to become published in a journal. So this process of developing and completing research was just a lot more of a collaborative process than I had ever realized. And it was really amazing just to see everyone working together on projects all around me. So Carl and I were really glad to be part of the lab meetings and also work on our own research alongside everyone else, and are excited to hear about more projects.
Okay, so the next presentation is going to be by Azareli Bedoya, and the faculty mentor is Michael Loic, and it will be a video that we have.
My name is Azareli Bedoya. I'm a third-year environmental studies and environmental science double major. The research project that I was a part of these last 2 quarters was building capacity for mitigating the climate crisis, drought resilience, and Joshua trees. My mentors were Michael Loic and Daniel Hastings from the Environmental Studies Department. For this project, we did experiments on Joshua tree species to better understand how they respond to water stress that is often induced by drought, and to learn more about their capabilities in storing water. Before the experiments began, plants were assigned into 3 groups, which included a control group, a pulse treatment group, and a drought treatment group. My contribution to this project was helping to take measurements on the gas exchange activity of plants by using a portable photosynthesis system that measured the carbon uptake and water loss in each of these plants. After watering the control group, data on leaf thickness was collected because we wanted to know if these plants store water in their leaves. I also helped to prepare leaf and root tissue samples, then worked to calibrate a dew point potentiometer machine, which would provide us with more information about whether or not water was being stored in the roots and leaves of the Joshua trees and how much of it was transpired. Joshua tree populations are predicted to decline as a result of climate change. The presence of these populations in the desert have an ecological significance in the region. Therefore, their disappearance would impact the entire ecosystem. This research is especially important because it will inform conservation management. Some of the key takeaways from this project is that working in a lab has allowed me to learn more about the research process, which includes the methodologies that were used to provide answers for this investigation. I valued the experience of working in a lab for the first time and really enjoyed witnessing how much information and data you can obtain just by using some of these machines, along with a small leaf or root sample. Thank you.
Next up is Gavin Provincio. The faculty mentor is Jeremy Yamashiro. And on deck is Lucinda Veloz.
Hello. Thank you for having me up here. So today I'm going to talk about an experiment project that I had the pleasure of working on. The main goal was to understand how, how the information of other people influences our memory of things. So in this case, we were looking at misinformation and how it spreads. So on the top, you see an image of a room, and so that's what participants were shown. and it had miscellaneous items, and they were asked to recall all the items that they can remember. And then later they were then shown a video of other people performing the same task. And we sprinkled in some misinformation. And we also used different social networks. So there's additive and complex. And essentially additive just exposes to one or misinformation under one source, and the complex showed under multiple sources. And in conclusion, what we saw was that information spreads a lot more when there's more sources involved. And my contributions to this was a lot of data organizing. So it's pretty hard to have an AI or anything do it automatically, because it's a list of people put down. So I had to go through, I think over 200 participants, and they did 6 recalls. So there's a lot of data to go through. And this scholarship helps with removing the financial barriers to that. And yeah, that ends my presentation.
So next student is Lucinda Veloz, and faculty mentor is Jeremy Yamashiro. And on deck is Zina Hamrouni, Jade Guri, and Teresa Bostic.
Hi, y'all. So I'm also going to be talking about memory today. Oh boy, I can't see my screen at all. So something to note to start out with is let's talk about suppression-induced forgetting. So suppression-induced forgetting basically suggests that if you have unwanted memories, that if you intentionally suppress them, that that should lead to a decrease in the availability of those memories. So for example, if you have traumatic memories or you have embarrassing memories from middle school, if you are intentionally suppressing them, there should be less likelihood that you should remember them later. So that leads us to the think, no, think paradigm. So what they did was participants were given a series of cue target pairs. So the cue would be beach and the target would be Africa. And so they would learn that together, and they would have to, there would be up to 3 different rounds to ensure that the cue would elicit the target to reach a certain benchmark. And then afterward, in the avoidance phase, they were given a smaller list within the main list. And then they were directed to avoid the retrieval of the target. So in this case, if they're given the word beach, they would be directed to avoid the target. So in this case, it would be Africa. So currently, we're running a pre-registered report. So unfortunately, this paradigm has received numerous high-profile failures to replicate, which is kind of sad because within science, you want to be able to replicate your findings, right? So our lab, along with a bunch of other labs across the country, are working on this study. And so because of that, we're still in the data collection phase. My role has been organizing, troubleshooting, and running the experiment in PsychoPy, which is a program that utilizes Python for social science researchers. I've also been collaborating with other research assistants, and eventually we'll be collecting and coding the data collection. That's all I have for y'all. Thank you.
Okay, so next group of students, Zina Hamrouni, Jade Gori, Teresa Bostic. The faculty mentor is Saskia Casanova. And on deck will be Carly McCaw.
Hi, I'm Teresa Bostic.
Hi, I'm Jade Gori.
And I'm Zina Hamrouni, and we're research assistants in the Black Muslim world making race, religion, and gender in the lives of Black Muslim college students, working under Assistant Professor Saskia Casanova as part of the Migration Identity Education Lab, otherwise known as MIEL, at UC Santa Cruz. The goal of our project is to explore the educational experiences of Black Muslim students and their sense of belongings in the university. Especially since research focused on Black Muslim students within the United States isn't as abundant in psychology, it is urgent that we conduct this type of research in order to move towards educational equity.
During the past 2.5 quarters, we have assisted our faculty supervisor
Dr. Saskia Casanova, as well as 2 other professors, Dr. Kian McGuire from Arizona State University and Dr. Samiha Raman from California State University, Long Beach, in conducting semi-structured interviews in addition to our literature review. Through their outreach alongside our own, we've been able to conduct 16 semi-structured interviews with Black Muslim college students across 3 separate campuses. Our outreach included sending emails to on-campus organizations, for instance, Black Student Union, African American Resource Cultural Center, Muslim Student Association, and putting up flyers within the residential and apartment dorms on campus, as well as communicating with surrounding college campuses for wider outreach and participant searching. Right now, the participants are engaged in Photo Voice, which is the process of taking photos to share their experiences as Black Muslim students across these campuses. We will be conducting focus groups with our participants in June and throughout the summer.
Through our semi-structured interviews and meetings with our faculty supervisor, we have identified preliminary patterns to develop our qualitative codebook to analyze our interviews. We've examined visibility, invisibility, and the erasure of intersectional identities based on physical presentations, including cultural attire and the visibility of Blackness. We focused on class as well as the saliency of identity based on family or community socialization. We also analyzed belonging or validation of intersecting identities as moments through interpersonal relationships versus spaces. Our work also analyzes experiences and responses to microaggressions. Here we focus on microaggressions that target multiple identities to support the university identify constructive tactics that they can employ to support the educational experiences of Black Muslim students. Through our research, we aim to assist our respective universities develop inclusive programs and learning environments that adequately support Black Muslim students.
Our project uplifts Black Muslim college students through affirming their experiences away from the standard deficit narratives and meet the marginalized groups in research. Here we can acknowledge their world-making processes without identifying them solely based on their traumas. Thank you.
Next, we have Carly McCaw. Her faculty mentor is Carrie Pomeroy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carly McCaw, and I am part of the Kelp Rises Kelp Restoration for an Integrated Socio-Ecological System project with my mentor, Carrie Pomeroy, and graduate student, Calvin Munson. So California kelp forests have been experiencing a number of heat waves that have led to dramatic declines, not only in the kelp forests themselves, but also in the species that have depended on them. It has also disrupted many of the human activities that people engage with the kelp forests, as we see pictured below. So the goal for our project is to really develop an integrated framework to help inform restoration decision-making when we are faced with these problems of climate change. In terms of my own activities that I've been contributing to this project, I've developed an annotated bibliography to help build a shared knowledge base for our team. There's people from many different fields, so having a shared knowledge base where we can all collaborate has been very important. I've also been helping to conduct interviews with kelp-connected individuals. Specifically, I've been working with the social science team in our Monterey Bay case study, where we've been interviewing people who are connected to the kelp forest in one way or another. I've also been able to participate in the coding and analyze process of that case study. So we've been able to try to parse out meaningful themes that we've seen from that data. In terms of key insights, I've had experience now working with an interdisciplinary team, which has been really great. There's people from social science, earth science, all different backgrounds, which has been really informative. And then this fellowship has also allowed me the opportunity to pursue my own interests within this project. I've been able to pursue an interest in learning how community identity can help to inform how people engage with restoration and how it can be used as an effective strategy moving forward with restoration. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, next we actually have a video. It's Marlena Benavides, and her faculty mentor is Madeline Fairbairn.
Hello, my name is Marielena Benavides. I'm a recent graduate of CSC with a bachelor's in sociology and legal studies. My presentation today focuses on the research of Professor Madeline Fairbairn and graduate student Elsa Calderon on Black farmers and disposition of land in the Southeast. Elsa Calderon went to Mississippi and the Southeast last summer where she conducted 23 participatory interviews where she interviewed farmers and other Black farmers and other individuals about their experiences of farming while Black. What I did throughout the summer was literature reviews, transcription, and qualitative research. What I found is that many Black farmers are losing their land at an alarming rate compared to their white counterparts. I wanted to see how Black farmers managed to survive despite barriers and lack of resources. There were two main reasons why farmers were having a hard time farming. Black farmers were having a hard time farming. First, many Black farmers discussed that they have been denied loans or had delays with getting loans from government agencies, for example, the USDA. They feel that many government agencies place too many hurdles for Black farmers. The second reason is also because they have a lack of information and resources available to them compared to their white counterparts who find grants and loans a lot easier. From the audio interviews that Elsa Calderon conducted, I found two ways in which Black farmers have continued to farm. First, I was able to see that many Black farmers use many different financial institutions, such as banks. Second is that they do their own independent research because they don't have access to resources. These two answers were mainly found due to the audio interviews that were transcribed by myself and put into a software system called Deduce, which allowed myself and the team to find key quotes and phrases to see how Black farmers continue to farm despite barriers and what hurdles they faced. What I did find from my conclusion is that despite the systemic oppression, Black farmers are very resilient. And even with oppressive systems around them, they're able to find different ways to fund their farm. I want to thank Professor Fairbairn and Elsa Calderon, because without them, I would have not been able to reach this conclusion. They helped me grow individually and also as a student. They helped me a lot with this research and answered any questions that I had while conducting this research. I do want to thank them so much because without them, I wouldn't be here today. I also want to thank the Building Belonging program for allowing me to do this research because without this program, I wouldn't have been able to be here today and be able to present my results. So again, thank you very much. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
All right, so the next student is Dimitri Cardona. Faculty mentor is James Boucher Battle. On deck is Sophie Partita and Ariana Fabian.
My name is Dimitri Cardona. I'm a third-year sociology major and Stevenson affiliate here at UCSC. During summer and fall of 2022, I was part of a student research team with Erica Zarowski and Andrea Asher, led by Professor James Doucette Battle, along with Colleen Stone of the Science and Justice Research Center. We performed preliminary work towards the development of a UC HBCU Pathway Initiative proposal. Our proposal aims to support students from historically Black colleges or universities and that have an interest in PhD research in sociology, science, and technology studies and bioethics at the University of California. Our research proposal seeks to bring HBCU undergraduate students to UC Santa Cruz for a 6 to 8 week summer internship to familiarize them both with our campus and research programs, as well as identifying potential UC faculty, mentors, and PhD advisors. In the project, I conducted literature reviews, wrote annotated bibliographies, and performed thematic analyses in the areas of diversity in STEM and science, technology, and society studies, as well as campus climate and graduate socialization issues affecting minority students. Additionally, I worked with Professor Doucette Battle to understand how the initiative could be improved and how students of color can become invested in STS majors earlier in their academic careers. I found this particularly important because I was not aware of STS as a discipline until I was part of the Building Belonging program. As a result of our collective efforts, we submitted our completed proposal in March 2023 to invite 4 students from North Carolina A&T State University to participate in the UC HBCU initiative at UCSC in summer 2024. I'm extremely honored and grateful to have been a part of the Building Belonging program and a part of Professor Doucette Battle's research with the UC HBCU initiative. There are many students of color who are underrepresented in college and universities, and being a part of this provided me with the intellect and understanding as to how and why that is. As a junior in sociology, I often felt secluded at UCSC. Working with Professor Doucette Battle in the Building Belonging program aided my growth as both a student of color and as a sociology major. Again, I want to thank the Building Belonging program, Colleen Stone, and Professor Doucette Battle for the opportunity. Thank you.
So next up is Sofia Partida and Ariana Fabian. The faculty mentor is Roberto de Ruc. On deck is Lizeth Peña Sanchez and Elizabeth Peña Sanchez.
Hi, I'm Ariana. Hello, I'm Sophia. And our project focuses on the negative effects of educational technology on marginalized students.
We're looking specifically at the digital divide in education, not as something that's about inclusion or exclusion, but something that's about targeted inclusion under racial capitalism.
And the reason we're focusing on this is because educational technology has potential to marginalize students further because it is created in a way that is reinforcing personal biases.
We're looking specifically at surveillance technology, the way students are tracked in education, discrimination, and inequalities regarding educational technology.
And in terms of our job to help our professor and our mentor, our job was to gather and code articles that discussed educational technology in order to support their writing.
And it's important to investigate educational technology just because it is an emerging thing that's coming up in the classroom, and it's not free of biases. Just as the way that we all have our biases, educational technology is created with these biases in mind as well.
And a key takeaway for me was a growing interest in educational research. This was an amazing opportunity for me to see the realm of education, not only teaching, but just seeing different aspects of what I can do with an education degree.
For me personally, this was also like one of my first educational research experiences, and it was really interesting to see sort of like how building a project looks like and what it looks like from the beginning to seeing it into fruition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next students are Lizeth Peña Sanchez and Elizabeth Peña Sanchez. Their faculty mentor is Rakia Gibran.
Hi, my name is Lizeth, and I'm Elizabeth. We worked on the project School Youth Restorative Justice and the Dilemmas of Structural Violence with Professor Rakia Gibran. And our project focused on the impact of restorative justice on the high school students in Oakland. And when it comes to disproportionate discipline and the school-to-prison pipeline, adults have a lot to say on these problems, but it is important for us to listen to the students impacted by these issues. And as a part of this project, we have been transcribing interviews and looking closely at themes that are arising. And the overall themes that have been arising is that there's no trace of restorative justice on the students of Oakland, and students have different perspectives on the issues surrounding them. But so far, the themes that I have noticed are the lack of resources from the district and students needing experience and caring teachers and wanting more engaging classes. The themes that I have noticed so far is that students are demanding more counseling services just because they believe that the issues stem from home. And they're also asking for another sort of discipline other than suspension, because suspension usually makes them lose education, since they're out of school. And this is important and interesting to us because we ourselves are from Oakland and we're familiar with the issues, and we plan on getting into work around structural issues. And it is important to hear the different perspectives on what schools need, especially if it's coming from the students, because the structural issues impact their learning environment and their ability to learn and belong in school. Okay, that's it.
so I should have said on deck, but now it's introducing Mia Laskin, Lupita Mercado, and Angel Sanchez, faculty mentor Liv Hoverstein.
All right. Hello, everyone. Today we'll be presenting a project that my fellow peers and I have worked on today called the EEG Replication Project. If you already didn't know, today my name is Angel Sanchez, and these are my fellow two research assistants.
Hi, I'm Mia Laskin and Lupita Mercado.
All right, so today I would first like to start off with the motivation regarding as to why we started this study. So our motivation for the replication of the Thierry and Roos project stems from the ongoing replication crisis within the field of psychology, in which many scientific findings are difficult to reproduce. For this reason, it is crucial to replicate this highly influential experiment in order to prove its validity and to further build solid theories with empirical support and evidence. So this particular study we selected for application because it is highly influential in the field, and because of that, we identified some certain problems in it that we would like to fix. For example, the sample of participants in this study were a little bit too small, and the way we address this is by simply increasing our sample size to 4 times of that of the original study.
Okay, so in prior studies, it was discovered that Chinese-English bilinguals translate words into their native language while reading in their second language. So in our study, we plan to use the same methods from the original study. The main method that we will be using to collect data is going to be the EEG cap, which measures neural activity across the cortex. And these brain potentials are averaged out and time locked to the specific stimulus of interest and then analyzed. In the experiment, participants read pairs of English words and decide if they are semantically related. Secretly, half of the word pairs have a character repetition when translated into Chinese, as you can see in this figure here, such as post and mail.
So we expect to see an N400 effect, which is sensitive to semantic manipulations, but only for the Chinese-English bilinguals, which you can see in figure B in the top left corner, and not in the English monolinguals, which is figure A. If so, this will constitute a successful replication of the prior study. In our work as research assistants and with the help of our mentor, Lee Hoverson, we aim to address the research question and determine whether bilinguals translate into the words into their native language while reading in a second language. We have contributed to this study by collecting stimuli, programming the experiment through PsychoPy, setting up the lab environment, and preparing proficiency measure tasks. This quarter, we are currently collecting EEG data from participants, and you can see the data from our first participant in the lower left-hand corner. But yeah.
Just another thing as well, if any of you guys who would like to participate in this study, feel free to check out the Sonia program. We would be very grateful for any participants. Thank you guys for your time.
So next we have our group, actually we're in group 4, so the last of our 4 different groups. We have Autumn Montez, Julie Savitsky. The faculty mentor is Josephine Pham. So come on up, and on deck is Raphael Keith.
Hello everyone, my name is Autumn Montez, and thanks to the Building Belongings program, I worked with Julie and Professor Josephine Pham on a research project entitled The Lived Tensions of Institutionalizing K-12 Ethnic Studies, Learning from the Political Dreams and Struggles of Teachers of Color. Due to this recent passing of the Assembly Bill 101, ethnic studies will become a high school graduation requirement in California public schools by the year 2025. In light of this policy change, the goal of this research project was to learn from the experiences of teachers of color who have expressed commitment to ethnic studies. The guiding research question was, how do teachers of color navigate the promises and tensions of institutionalizing K-12 ethnic studies to advance racially just education? We started by attending a teachers' conference for building community for K-12 ethnic studies. And after Professor Pham interviewed teachers, we organized and tracked transcription process, wrote analytic memos, coded the interviews used in Deduce, and identified 6 emerging themes and created a poster. In addition to learning research skills and transcribing, research skills such as transcribing and coding, we also gain valuable insight into the struggles teachers of colors are navigating trying to introduce ethnic studies programs within the education system. Some eye-opening realizations were the ways in which teachers of color work were undervalued, their agencies ignored, and their contributions went unacknowledged. How access to critical race knowledge communities is essential for replenishing commitment to ethnic studies, and how ethnic studies is healing for both the students and teachers. I want to thank the Building Belonging Program, the Institute for Social Transformation for this opportunity, and Professor Pham for her mentorship. Thank you very much.
Okay, next up we have Raphael Keith, whose faculty mentor is Carlos Martinez. On deck is Leah Toledo.
Hi, my name is Rafael Revelorio, and my project is harm reduction for everyone. Our goal is to study harm reduction tools in Latino and Maya communities, and we are researching a managed alcohol program that emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic in SF, when healthcare systems were being pushed to their limits. This is the first program of its kind in the country and tries to apply harm reduction to alcohol use disorder. Harm reduction is a methodology focused on the minimalization of harmful consequences. For example, in this program, doctors negotiate with their patients to decide how much alcohol they are allowed to drink instead of aiming for abstinence, turning alcohol into a medication for people with physical alcohol dependency. Harm reduction follows the idea that any positive change is good because the meaning of success is so different and nuanced for everyone. During this project, my contributions included an annotated bibliography about the goals and metrics for alcohol harm reduction, and I was able to visit the program in person. A key takeaway was the way that patients dealing with alcohol use disorder were humanized with outside space, community events, and autonomy, as you can see in this upper right-hand picture. I will be continuing this work over the summer with the SF AIDS Foundation as we disseminate an academic overdose prevention report to Latino and Mayan community organizations. The second takeaway that resonated with me was that patients aim to reduce alcohol consumption on their own without the program pushing them. In fact, the program's goals don't specify reducing consumption. The importance of this project is increasing the accessibility of predominantly white-serving harm reduction spaces for Latino, Maya, and migrant communities. This is an important step in moving away from the criminalization system that dominates our society. Thank you.
Okay, our next student is Leah Toledo. Faculty mentor is Megan Bodewine. And on deck is Maria Soto, Alex Santos, Louis Zhang, and Joshua Garcia.
Good evening, everyone. This year I worked with Professor Bodewin on a project called Language Comprehension and Cognitive Control. Here we wanted to understand how our brain draws upon cognitive control processes such as maintenance, inhibition, and error monitoring to help us understand language. Essentially, we were looking for common mechanisms in the brain of cognitive control and language comprehension. During the year, I've been shadowing and training for the process of running the method of the experiment. Currently, I help assemble the EEG cap and with the electrodes and put it on the participant. This includes filling the electrodes with a gel applicator in order to get a good connection for brainwaves. The EEG method is a non-invasive procedure to pick up electrical signals to detect fluctuations in the brain while performing a cognitive task. This is important research that allows us to understand how language relies on cognitive control. I want to thank the Building Belonging program and my mentor for providing me this opportunity, as it has allowed me to develop EEG skills that I might use in my career as a neuroscientist in the future. Thank you.
Now, do we have Maria Soto?
Hello, we are exploring the cost versus the convenience of post-COVID technology application. This is Education Surveillance Quandary. Surveillance in the educational system has been prevalent in the US for many decades, and disputes over the legality of these classroom censorships has even reached the Supreme Court. Rather than just the banning of books and the school newspapers, we're now seeing an addition of new surveillance systems in the classroom, such as laptops that track data and software that auto marks language models such as ChatGPT as plagiarism.
There are many different forms of surveillance present in schools or aim to keep students safe and in mental health. For example, there are facial recognition surveillance such as CCTV, the school camera, school issue devices for monitoring students' social media, and many apps such as Class Dojo, Gaggle, GoGuardian, Baby Connect, Safety Stop, Geo Listening, and Google Apps for education.
These softwares ultimately lead to students censoring what they write and how they express themselves online, which results in a loss of autonomy for communities who have disproportionately been denied it. We've seen that there is heightened surveillance used on marginalized communities, including lower income communities consisting of students of color. Students that are part of the LGBTQ plus communities have also noted concerns about their privacy and the safety of their communities as a result of the surveillance.
The mass implementation of technology in education has also had some different serious consequences on students. Students are constantly having their data collected and sold, and the selling of this data can be sold to predatory groups who use the data of students to inform the school to prison pipeline. Facial recognition technology also proportionally tracks students of color more than other students based on racial biases, and being constantly surveilled just harms students' mental health as they have this feeling of being surveilled over and over again. And overall, all of this combined just leads to poor mental health and the lack of privacy for students as they are constantly being tracked and having their data collected and sold at their every move.
So now I can introduce Gabriela Garcia, whose faculty mentor is Adriana Manago. And on deck is Sanjana Dukapati. Oops.
There we go. Hello, my name is Gabriela Garcia. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm currently a third-year intensive psychology and education minor here at UCSC. And for this Building Belonging project, the title of my project is Gen Z, Social Media and Visibility, Navigating the Intersections of Gender and Sexuality in the Context of Whiteness. And I'm working with Dr. Adriana Manago. Next slide. So the current project, just a little bit about it. So we use digital interviews. They're semi-structured interviews. It's called a digital tour, where essentially we have participants hook up to a lab computer or share their screen on Zoom and walk us through their social media, essentially taking us on a tour of what their life is like online. And we study LGBTQ plus youth, age 16 to 20. We look at their social media accounts, and we're using qualitative thematic analysis to explore the narratives of identity as it's forming online and offline. For this project, some context behind it, social media is a key context for identity development among youth. It's an important, omnipresent context that isn't focused on a lot in research. Well, I mean, it is, just not very often in the mainstream that we hear besides, ooh, social media bad and scary. So little research investigates white culture as a context for identity development. Since most social media are created in the US and are used predominantly by white people, at least again in common narratives, then we don't usually look at whiteness as a context because it becomes invisible because we're oversaturated by it. So then, to me, intersectionality of race, sexuality, and gender is important in our understanding of identity as nuanced, which is something that we lose when we don't look at one of those intersections. So for this project, I've analyzed recordings, I've led interviews, and I've also conducted in-depth literature reviews for both myself and my lab mates. This specific project has really helped me explore white culture in research, as it's often invisible and not acknowledged. This is especially important to me as a researcher, as a research assistant, and as a student here at UCSC, because I identify as being a queer, multiracial Latina, and those identities are often ignored in research, and the fact that, you know, we're often tokenized in research as being like, oh, we're being multicultural, like I promise that we're looking at Latina identities in context, and then ignoring white contexts as well perpetuates the narrative that white people have no culture and that culture is something that only people of color have. So to me, being a part of this Building Belonging program has really helped me feel like I'm advocating for a community that I'm a part of and passionate about, having our voices heard in research, gaining a deeper understanding of the research process, and also preparing for graduate school applications this fall. I will be using this project as my writing sample. And it's also helped me envision what kind of research I want to conduct in the future. Thank you.
So next is Sanyana Dukapati, whose faculty mentor is Ariel Zucker. On deck is Alicia Leon, Crystal Alvarez.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Sanjana, and for the past 7 weeks, I've had the privilege of working on family planning incentives and the child health project alongside Professor Ariel Zucker. The essential question here that's driving our research work is how financial incentives given by the Indian government since 2012 are affecting fertility choices and birth rates in India. Again, since 2012, the Indian government has been providing financial incentives to community healthcare workers called ASHAs to advocate for women to space out their children or just have less children in general in order to promote better health for women, as well as decrease some of these birth rates in states that have really high birth rates. Also, having less children may decrease the risk of child mortality, which is kind of what the graph above is showing, the decrease of child mortality in the past couple of decades. And we are trying to analyze if there's a causal relationship between these financial incentives that are being imposed and the decreasing child mortality rates. So the way we're assessing this relationship is by comparing variation in states. So this is a map of India down below. The light blue states are the areas in which these financial incentives have been imposed, whereas the dark blue states are kind of the control group where nothing has been. And we are trying to analyze how the birth rates or the child mortality rates in these differing states are being affected because of the financial impositions. So what I'm doing more specifically is familiarizing myself with a statistical software called Stata to make sense of some of the past data that's been driving this project, and also being able to develop some data analyzation skills so I can analyze future data as well. And that's what I'll be doing moving forward into the summer. So overall, just to conclude, I'd really like to thank the Building Belonging program and Professor Zucker for giving me an opportunity to get involved in a project like this and allowing me to really expand my horizons by applying the knowledge I learned in school to develop some real life applicable conclusions. Thank you.
Okay, so now we have Alicia Leon and Crystal Alvarez Castillo. Their faculty mentor is Steve McKay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Crystal Alvarez Castillo, and I'm a fourth-year sociology major.
Hello, my name is Alicia Leon, and I'm a third-year sociology major.
For our Building Belonging project, we took part in a project called We Belong, community-initiated student-engaged research. Our awesome mentor was Professor Stephen McKay, who is part of the sociology department.
This project addresses questions around belonging and not belonging, documenting the experiences of mixed status and immigrant families, their contributions, and the obstacles they face. There were a total of 77 in-depth interviews, as well as 5 focus groups that were conducted in collaboration with community partners. These partners were the Thriving Immigrant Collaborative, the Community Action Board, and Community Bridges.
We contributed to this project through data analysis and website development. From the data analysis using collaborative coding and deduced software, 6 major themes or factors associated with feelings of belonging and not belonging emerged. And these are the 6 themes.
This project was important because it highlights the voices of those who are often unheard. Most of the project was based in Santa Cruz County, and more specifically, Watsonville. The data collected by our team was able to open a discussion on the conditions of immigrant and mixed status families. Another reason why this was important was because of the student engagement aspect, as it allows students to become comfortable with research as well as work in communities to build connections.
Ultimately, this project helped provide data and discussion for establishing a countywide agenda to improve the conditions for immigrant and mixed status families.
For me, this was an opportunity to get involved in my first research project on campus. I was able to gain research skills as well as work in a collaborative community and build connections.
And one of my biggest takeaways was that I'm from Watsonville and I'm also a UCSC student, so I was able to merge 2 big things that shape who I am and ultimately develop a sense of belonging for myself.
Thank you.
I promised chimpanzees, and I'm going to deliver chimpanzees, I hope.
Hello, my name is Hallie Soto and I'm part of the chimpanzee video coding team. This team is part of the Primate Ecology and Molecular Anthropology Lab, also known as PIMA, which is run by Professor Vicky Olza of the Anthropology Department. For this project, camera trap videos were looked at, which were set up on termite mounds in Isa Valley, Tanzania, which is in the western part of Africa. A team of undergrads looked at these videos and determined the species that were in the videos, and when they saw a chimpanzee, they actually individually identified the chimpanzee. Once these chimpanzee videos were collected, they were sent over to other team members like me that used a software called Boris, which analyzes animal behavior. In Boris, I looked at termite fishing events, which is when a chimpanzee puts the tool they made into a termite mound, takes it out, and eats the termites off of the tool they created. This data is then passed over to the PhD student Seth Phillips, who is looking at chimpanzees' understanding of termite ecology and the seasonality. Sorry I could not be here for this event. I have scheduling conflicts with my classes, but I'm very thankful to the Building Belonging Fellowship for funding this project. Without them, it would not be possible. And I'm also thankful for all of my team members and Professor Vicky Olza for always supporting me. Thank you.
Great. So we are through all of the student presentations, and I'm sure that all of you agree with me that it was just an incredible set of presentations. You can see the in-depth activities that the students did, that they were really involved in the research that's going on here. The breadth of research projects was also quite impressive, I thought, and I'm sure that you agree with me on that. And also the presentations. A lot of the students came, they were nervous. I was talking to several of them early on, but you all did an incredible job, and very proud of all of you. I want to thank all the faculty members for participating in this important program. There are a number of the faculty members are here, which is great. We'll be able to talk to them afterwards. I also should mention that you should all stay tuned for the Building Belonging program for next year. We'll make announcements in June or July this summer. I want to thank the donors for providing the funding for this. It's a really important program, one that we appreciate. All of the students here, I'm sure, appreciate this experience that they had. And then, of course, I want to thank all the members of the Institute for Social Transformation staff for managing this program, for putting it on, for putting on this event. You can imagine there's a lot of work that goes on beneath all of what you see here. So I want to point out a few people. Evan Knight, who's up here, who's helping me. Sue Grasso, who was here earlier but had to leave. Glenn Matoma, who is currently in Connecticut, who couldn't be here, who really wanted to be here, but it just didn't work out. And then Chris Benner, who's also on like a faculty leave right now, so he couldn't be here. Now, the last thing what we want to do is get all the students up on the stage for a final picture.